What's going on, everyone? For this week's video, I'm bringing to you the scene of the Ents breaking the Isengard Dam from Lord of the Rings Return of the King, featuring Treebeard and his friends Merry and Pippin. For the 3D files, you can find Treebeard, Merry, and Pippin off of cgtrader.com, specifically from this user Liam Morgan, and also for the other Ent I found off of cults3d.com, links below in the description. After printing his files, first thing to do is get Prime. Next, I'm going to apply the wood color from Vallejo Paints. After completing the initial base coat, I'm going to mix up a wash of olive green and some water, and that's going to get into all the nooks and crannies and really bring out some more depth of the figures. Next, I'm going to paint the large ass stone that Treebeard is holding with some light gray. Now applying some shrubbery onto Treebeard and the other Ent. To do this, I'm going to use Woodland Scenic's coarse turf and apply using super glue. Now to build one of the platforms that was all about in this scene using some skewers and Elmer's glue. Now these don't have to be perfect, they're makeshift platforms, so I don't really care about them being even. After all that has dried, I applied the same wood color paint and wash from the Ents painting. Now I'm going to give it that distressed look as though it was beaten and damaged by the flooding waters from the Isengard Dam. Now to place my figures into the mold. Oh! I should have known that this was going to be a bad omen, given that this other Ent can't even stand up on his own. Watch to the very end to see what I'm talking about. Let's mix up some epoxy resin. After thoroughly mixing up that resin between parts A and B, I'm going to mix in some dark green and black dye to give it that dark, murky water look. Beforehand, I'm going to tape this platform to the mold to make sure it doesn't float up or move or anything weird like that. After finishing the initial pour, the watercolor was looking a little too light for my liking, so I added some more dye to darken it up more. Now I couldn't trust that these ants would stay upright during the curing process, so I decided to tape them to the mold to provide the additional support, just to make sure nothing weird happened while it was unsupervised. Now I'm going to swab the bottom parts of the ends with this resin to make it look wet from the water.
Three days later.
Well, look at this. Just cannot believe this guy. Pathetic. I'm gonna have to do the best of my ability to channel my inner Bob Ross and think of all this as a happy accident. Even though I was mildly upset at first, looking at it, it's actually kinda cool looking. It's just though this guy was either incapacitated or he was dunking his head in the water as though he was, extinguishing the flames for being put on fire. So I like to think that. Now to demold. This was a little harder than expected. I learned after the fact that leaving the mold in hot water or in the freezer helps you demold. Well, next time. Now I'm going to use some Mod Podge to give that top level of the water some wave-like effect. I'm going to splotch this everywhere I can and as much as I could. Afterwards, I'm going in with my empty airbrush and blow the Mod Podge around in a certain direction. Now to build the base of the diorama using some cheap styrofoam, which I eventually swapped out for some better insulation foam. Going to use some wood glue. And then put the clamps on them.
The clamps! Right?
Next, I'm going to hit it with some pre-stained wood conditioner. This will prevent any blotching that you may get from staining, which is the next step. So I'm upcycling some wood that I have left over from shelves that I was no longer using to make this frame. Now for the stain, this color specifically is supposedly all the rage, this jackal bean color, so this is what I'm using. Now I wanted to make the water for the diorama very glossy, so I'm going to use this clear glaze spray on. Time to add Merry and then Pippin. And that concludes my video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you aren't subscribed, please do. Also, leave a like to help support my channel. Lastly, tell me what's your favorite Lord of the Rings movie or scene. For me, it was this one of the Ents destroying the Isengard Dam. Also, be sure to check out my other diorama builds.